the egg. An amazing cooking and baking creation. Today, Mrs. K is going to teach you, first of all, how to separate your eggs. Secondly, we're going to be using eggs as a leavening agent. So an agent that helps something to rise. And in that, we're going to be beating egg whites to a stiff peak stage and then folding them into a waffle batter so that we have nice and light and fluffy waffles. Are all waffles made in this particular way? No, but can they be? Absolutely. Now, beating an egg white, while it seems pretty easy to separate an egg, beating an egg white correctly and not getting any yolk in your egg white is really important. So, first of all, the thing I want to talk to you about is the stages of an egg white. So, the stages of egg whites. The first stage is a foamy stage. You begin to whisk by hand. It just looks pretty foamy, like this. Second stage, I pull my whisk up out of the bowl and I get a peak, but it kind of flops over, and I call this the Dairy Queen ice cream cone base. The next phase is what I call the stiff peak stage. So you pull your whisk up out of the bowl and it stands straight up. Does that make sense? So those are the stages of your egg whites. The first thing that we always have to ensure that we do is that we separate our egg whites properly. Now, I'll show you two different methods of separating your egg whites, but the first thing I want you to remember is that you use 3-bowl method to separate. So the one that you separate over is this one, clean whites, which means they are uncontaminated. By that, I mean not one speck of yolk went into the egg white. Should a speck of yolk go into your egg white, it will not whip to a stiff peak. It will not whip at all. You could whip for the next 10 years and it will not happen. If you have a dirty dish that has just a light amount of grease on it or a speck of grease, your egg whites will not whip. So it's very, very important that your dishes are clean, your tools are clean, and not one speck of egg yolk gets into your whites. So we're going to start by separating using a 3-bowl method. So at home, sometimes I just use 3 custard cups because they're nice and small. Right here, we're going to use these bowls, but I'm going to reuse my bowls to actually make the batter, which is totally fine. So, you know, my mom, she used to use the age-old pass it back and forth from shell to shell. Now, one of the reasons why I don't really like this method, I don't find it to be efficient. And then also, I broke my egg yolk because the shell is sharp, right? So I can't use this. Now, I'm going to collect my yolk here. I'm pretty sure I didn't get any in my white, but you have to be very sure you didn't get any, otherwise your whites won't beat. Okay? So you have to ensure that you don't do that. So that's really why I don't like that method. My preferred method, which is a much faster method, and it's precise, is using a clean hand. So I've washed my hands, I sanitize my hands, and I honestly rinse my hands because that sanitizer is like gasoline. So I rinse the sanitizer off. You're only eating your own product, you're only separating your own eggs, so make sure you wash your hands, of course, and then you are welcome to, you can use your hands. Sorry, I moved my clean egg whites into this bowl, and then I separate over this bowl. So I'm going to use this one here. I didn't do a very good separation, that's okay. And then basically I just pour my egg yolk into my hand. And I can see that my egg yolk is whole. The Vitaline membrane of the egg yolk is holding it, and it is still a circle. Can you see that it's still a circle? Okay, so because I know that there's no way that my yolk is contaminated, and so I drop my yolk into this bowl, and I put my clean egg white in this bowl. Clear? All right, so yolks, you don't have to throw your yolks away. You could cook them. Like at home, I might save them for custard or something, or this is a really good thing to keep for a hollandaise sauce that uses yolks. So they're very, very usable. You could scramble them with the rest of your breakfast. Doesn't matter. But I'm going to set my egg yolks aside. Okay. I'm going to wipe my face down and clean my hands before I go on to the next portion of this. Okay. So now with this, so I've got my 2 clean egg whites in here. Does it say 2? 2 separated eggs, great. So I'm setting my yolks aside. I have my clean egg whites. Now you're going to move on to your whisk, okay? The only thing I'm going to add into my egg whites at this point is 2 things. a little bit of cream of tartar, which is an acid. Acids always help to strengthen the egg white protein, and they'll help us to get better volume, which means they'll help us to get more air into our egg whites. Off the devices. The other thing that you can add, especially if you're doing a meringue, I'm not doing a meringue, so I'm not going to add this yet, is a little sprinkle of salt. Salt prevents water from bleeding out of your egg whites, so you just put a little salt in there. So I'm going to whip my egg whites. Now, this is stirring. This takes air out. This is whisking. It's an up and over motion. You want your egg whites to come up and over, and as they move up and over, they trap air, they grab air, which is the leavener that we need. And you'll see, I'm not using my whole arm, but I'm using my wrist to do this. This is going to take us some time. Okay, so I'm going to splice the video together, and in the next section of my video, I'll show you what folding in looks like. Are you having a drab morning? Maybe waffles could change your mood. So, to continue, onto our waffle recipe, we talked about egg whites. We talked about the phases of egg whites. So now we're moving on to our waffle recipe. So egg whites are going to be part of the leavening portion of our waffles today. And then I have my dry ingredients measured here in my bowl. So I've got flour, baking powder. Did I do 7 mils of sugar and salt? I think I missed sugar. I need to put 7 mils of sugar in here. And then I've got my my salt. Oops. So I use a teaspoon, which is a 5, and then 2 ones, a quarter teaspoon twice. All right. Keep those items to the side so that we can sanitize those, please. And then what I have here, as you saw me starting, is I've got my whipped egg whites to a stiff peak, so when I hold them up, they stand up nice and tall. We're going to fold those in to have a nice and fluffy waffle. Now my recipe tells me that I'm going to add into my egg yolks my oil, my water. So I've got my liquids here added together. Now I'm going to stir into that my dry mixture. I'm going to use a wooden spoon to do that. Make sure everything is in. And then as you're done with dishes, please make sure they go to the sink so that you're keeping your counter area as tidy as possible. Especially in these conditions. And just remember, one person goes, we sanitize all the dishes, then another person goes. So I'm going to stir this together. Okay. And it kind of looks chunky. You don't have to have it being perfectly smooth. We don't want pancake batters to be perfectly smooth. That's fine. Now, I like to move from a wooden spoon to a rubber spatula for folding. Now, so I'm taking my whisk out of here. We're not going to whisk this together because if I continue to stir with the whisk, it'll take out the air that I beat into my egg whites. Now I'm going to take this egg white mixture. I'm going to put it into the bowl. Just gently put it in so I'm not losing any air. And then I'm going to fold. Now folding is a gentle motion that goes around the bowl and through the center. Around the exterior of the bowl, through the center. And then around the bowl, through the center. Okay? Now, I have my waffle iron preheated. I've sprayed both the top and the bottom with cooking spray. Actually, Mrs. Strada has done that for us, thanks to her. Now, you want to probably spray your waffle iron every other time you add a waffle in. So I want to continue to do this folding motion until my mixture looks homogeneous, which means it all looks like one color. It looks like it belongs together, and it's always been like that. Through the center and around the outside. Through the center and around the outside. Through the center and around the outside. And we're going to continue to do that. But you can see it's like nice and light and fluffy, right? So I'm going to continue to do that. Now when I add my batter into my waffle iron, I'm going to just draw a picture on the board so that we're clear. Because what we don't want, these are brand new waffle irons. So it's nice and light and fluffy. Can you see how I've retained the air? If I just stir it in like this, I'm going to lose all the air that I beat into those egg whites. Okay? So I'm going to use probably a 1/4 measuring cup or a 1/3 measuring cup to scoop this into each square. Now, if you have a waffle iron, which you do have, so this is the top of my waffle iron. Number one, you want to spray both sides, which has already been done. It's usually divided into 4 sections, so you get 4 mini waffles, right? When you pour batter into your waffle iron, you only want to pour this much batter. You do not want to pour to the edges, okay? Never do that. Pour a little bit in the middle, and then as you put the waffle iron together, the batter will squish into those spaces. But if you pour it all the way to the edges, it's going to come out the sides, burn to the waffle iron, and it's not going to be very fun for you to clean. Okay, does that make sense? And then we can use a set of tongs or a fork to remove our waffles. What we don't want to be doing is constantly opening the lid, closing the lid, opening the lid, closing the lid. How's my waffle? I don't know. Let's check it. Right? You just leave the lid down, and then the light will go on green when the waffle is ready to come out, and it should be GBD, golden brown and delicious. Are you ready to make a waffle for breakfast?
No.
Okay, so one partner goes, then the other partner goes. The waffle iron handles must be sanitized in between use. Does that make sense? Are you good? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, sanitize our stools, sanitize our phones. Move our backpacks, our bags to the designated location, and we'll see you next time.